Chapter 24 of The Dog Crusoe and His Master. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Allison Hester of Athens, Georgia. The Dog Crusoe and His Master by R.M. Ballantyne. Chapter 24. Plans and Prospects. Dick becomes homesick, and Henry metaphysical. The Indians attack the camp. A blow-up. On the following day the Indians gave themselves up to unlimited feasting in consequence of the arrival of a large body of hunters with an immense supply of buffalo meat. It was a regular day of rejoicing. Upwards of 600 buffaloes had been killed, and as the supply of meat before their arrival had been ample, the camp was now overflowing with plenty. Feasts were given by the chiefs, and the medicine men went about the camp uttering loud cries, which were meant to express gratitude to the Great Spirit for the bountiful supply of food. They also carried a portion of meat to the aged and infirm who were unable to hunt for themselves and had no young men in their family circle to hunt for them. This arrival of the hunters was a fortunate circumstance, as it put the Indians in great good humor and inclined them to hold friendly intercourse with the trappers, who for some time continued to drive a brisk trade in furs. Having no market for the disposal of their furs, the Indians of course had more than they knew what to do with, and were therefore glad to exchange those of the most beautiful and valuable kind for a mere trifle, so that the trappers laid aside their traps for a time and devoted themselves to traffic. Meanwhile, Joe Blunt and his friends made preparations for their return journey. "You see," remarked Joe to Henry and Dick, as they sat beside the fire in Pee-eye-em's lodge and feasted on a potful of grasshopper soup which the great chief squaw had just placed before them. "You see, my calculations is as follows. What with trapping beavers and hunting, we three have made enough to sot us up, and it likes us. In the Mustang Valley—" "Ha!" interrupted Dick, remitting for a few seconds to the use of his teeth in order to exercise his tongue. "Ha, Joe, but it don't like me. What, give up a hunter's life and become a farmer? I should think not." "Bon!" ejaculated Henry, but whether the remark had reference to the grasshopper soup or the sentiment we cannot tell. "Well," continued Joe, commencing to devour a large buffalo steak with a hunter's appetite, "you'll please yourselves, lad, as to that. But, as I was sayin', we've got a powerful lot of furs and a big pack of odds and ends for the Injuns we chance to meet with by the way, and powder and lead to last us a 12-month. Besides, 5 good horses to carry us and our packs over the plains. So if it's agreeable with you, I mean to make a bee line for the Mustang Valley. We're pretty sure to meet with Blackfeet on the way, and if we do, we'll try to make peace between them and the Snakes. I expect it'll be pretty well on for 6 weeks afore we git home, so we'll start tomorrow." "Dat is fat will do, Velville," said Henry. "Will you please donate me one petit morsel of steak?" "I'm ready for anything, Joe," cried Dick. "You're a leader. Just point the way, and I'll answer for 2 of us following ye. Eh, won't we, Crusoe?" "We will," remarked the dog quietly. "How comes it," inquired Dick, "that these Indians don't care for our tobacco?" "They like their own better, I suppose," answered Joe. "Most all the Western Injuns do. They make it of the dried leaves of the sumac and the inner bark of the red willow, chopped very small and mixed together. They call this stuff kinnikinnick, but they like to mix about 1/4 of our tobacco with it. So Pee-eye-em tells me, and he's a good judge. The amount that redskin mortal smokes is uncommon." "What are they doing yonder?" inquired Dick, pointing to a group of men who had been feasting for some time past in front of a tent within sight of our trio. "Gonna sing, I think," replied Joe. As he spoke, 6 young warriors were seen to work their bodies about in a very remarkable way, and give utterance to still more remarkable sounds, which gradually increased until the singers burst out into that terrific yell, or war whoop, for which American savages have long been famous. Its effect would have been appalling to unaccustomed ears. Then they allowed their voices to die away in soft, plaintive tones, while their action corresponded thereto. Suddenly the furious style was revived, and the men wrought themselves into a condition little short of madness, while their yells rung wildly through the camp. This was too much for ordinary canine nature to withstand, so all the dogs in the neighborhood joined in the horrible chorus. Crusoe had long since learned to treat the eccentricities of Indians and their curs with dignified contempt. He paid no attention to this serenade, but lay sleeping by the fire until Dick and his companions rose to take leave of their host, and return to the camp of the fur traders. The remainder of that night was spent in making preparations for setting forth on the morrow, and when, at grey dawn, Dick and Crusoe lay down to snatch a few hours' repose, the yells and howling in the Snake camp were going on as vigorously as ever. The sun had arisen, and his beams were just tipping the summits of the Rocky Mountains, causing the snowy peaks to glitter like flame, and the deep ravines and gorges to look sombre and mysterious by contrast, when Dick and Joe and Henry mounted their gallant steeds, and, with Crusoe gambolling before, and the two pack horses trotting by their side, turned their faces eastward, and bade adieu to the Indian camp. Crusoe was in great spirits. He was perfectly well aware that he and his companions were on their way home, and testified his satisfaction by bursts of scampering over the hills and valleys. Doubtless he thought of Dick Varley's cottage, and of Dick's mild, kind-hearted mother. Undoubtedly, too, he thought of his own mother, Fan, and felt a glow of affection as he did so. Of this we feel quite certain. He would have been unworthy the title of hero if he hadn't. Perchance he thought of Grumps, but of this we are not quite so sure. We rather think, upon the whole, that he did. Dick, too, let his thoughts run away in the direction of home. Sweet word! Those who have never left it cannot, by any effort of imagination, realize the full import of the word home. Dick was a bold hunter, but he was young, and this was his first long expedition. Oftentimes, when sleeping under the trees and gazing dreamily up through the branches at the stars, he had thought of home, until his longing heart began to yearn to return. He repelled such tender feelings, however, when they became too strong, deeming them unmanly, and sought to turn his mind to the excitements of the chase. But latterly his efforts were in vain. He became thoroughly homesick, and, while admitting the fact to himself, he endeavored to conceal it from his comrades. He thought that he was successful in this attempt. Poor Dick Varley! As yet he was sadly ignorant of human nature. Henry knew it, and Joe Blunt knew it. Even Crusoe knew that something was wrong with his master, although he could not exactly make out what it was. But Crusoe made memoranda in the notebook of his memory. He jotted down the peculiar phases of his master's new disease with the care and minute exactness of a physician, and, we doubt not, ultimately added the knowledge of the symptoms of homesickness to his already well-filled stores of erudition. It was not until they had set out on their homeward journey that Dick Varley's spirits revived. And it was not until they reached the beautiful prairies on the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains, and galloped over the green sward towards the Mustang Valley, that Dick ventured to tell Joe Blunt what his feelings had been. "Do you know, Joe," he said confidently, reining up his gallant steed after a sharp gallop, "do you know I've been feeling awful low for some time past?" "I know it, lad," answered Joe, with a quiet smile, in which there was a dash of something that implied he knew more than he chose to express. Dick felt surprise, but he continued, "I wonder what it could have been. I never felt so before." "'Twas homesickness, boy," returned Joe. "How do you know that?" "The same way as I know most things, by experience and observation.
I've been homesick myself once, but it was long, long ago.